I'm John. I'm Gary's youngest brother. I'd like to echo all of the words of thanks that my sister Kathleen shared with everybody, and especially to any law enforcement that were here, LAPD, San Luis Obispo Search and Rescue, Operation Serve People. I know that would have meant a lot to Gary for you to be here. It does mean a lot. It means a lot to us too. So when you have a lot of people speak, they tend to say things that you were going to say, and that's what's happening. I'm going to improvise. Tom, you did a great job, but unlike Tom, I brought visual aids. I have the book. I've got those special toothpicks that he talked about. But I wanted to say a special thanks to Tom because I'm glad that Gary had a special friend like you to live out all of the adventures that he wanted to live out in his retirement here in Arroyo Grande, and I'm glad that he had someone like you to share that with, so thank you. So, I'm gonna try to be brief here, and I'll tell a couple stories. You know, Gary, there's 20 years that separates me and Gary. So sometimes he was more like a father figure to me. Michael and I aren't that much in age difference, we're like brothers kind of. And one time Gary decided to go to the police Special Olympics, and it was in Sacramento. And this is kind of along the theme of what you've heard tonight. You know, this loss was sudden for us. One day, Gary was there, one day he wasn't. And it leaves a big hole, but because there's such a hole, you know that he lived a life of significance. And Gary, you know, when I looked at him as a father figure, I kind of thought he would be a little bit like my dad and stern, and I was actually a little nervous to be around him sometimes. So we had to get my dad's van ready to go up to the police Olympics up in Sacramento. And Michael and I were supposed to help load it up. And Gary liked to drink Coors banquet beer. And he had his beer on a refrigerator. And I had to pass that beer every time I went to go get something from the van and bring it back in. I'm not going to tell you how old I was way too young to be doing this. And every time I'd pass that banquet beer, I'd take a little sip. I like this banquet beer, it's pretty good stuff. So I think I'm holding it together, I'm getting everything I should, bring it back to the van. Next thing he does, he gives me a job. I'm supposed to put oil in the car. I'm like, man, I don't know how to put oil in the car, but I don't want to say anything, you know, I'm afraid to get mad at me. Plus, I've been drinking a little bit. So I'm looking, I pop up the hood, there's all these caps, I'm not sure which one, you know, windshield washer fluid, that might be an option. Radiator, who knows? You should have asked Michael, because Michael was building his own cars by the time he was 5. So I picked a cap that looked good, and I filled it up. Went back, had a little swig of the banquet beer. I come back out with the next armload of stuff, and Gary's like, where'd you put that oil? I'm like, right here. He goes, this is the radiator. What are you thinking? So I thought he was going to be mad at me, you know, like kind of thought he'd be a little more stern like my dad. But he wasn't. He shook his head. He told me where I should have put the oil. I never told him about the banquet beer. I don't think he ever got it. It delayed our trip a few hours, but he got it fixed up, and we went on our way. You know, Gary, he didn't just do things, you know, the way maybe some of us would or I would. The toothpicks, for example, he didn't just chew toothpicks, he had special toothpicks that he got from a special person that he went to for the rest of his life, ordered him special, and that's what he chewed. He didn't just, you know, tell stories to Eamon, he wrote a book about it. And as I understand it, the impetus for this book was the time that he and Eamon spent in the backyard hunting gophers. And as Tom indicated, Gary's a big rock stealer. He'd like to steal rocks. Your rocks, my rocks. You go to a museum, he'd take those rocks. Protected National Forest, nothing wrong with those rocks. He never found a rock he didn't like. And the reason he got those rocks was to cover up the gopher holes in his backyard because he was in perpetual battle with the gopher holes. In fact, if you ever read this book, I recommend Gopher Gigantus. It's a good chapter. So he wrote these stories as a way to memorialize his time with Damon and put them together. And it epitomizes who Gary was. Gary as a brother brought us all together. He didn't just hunt, he used hunting as a way to invite his brothers and get to know him and experience him. He didn't just be a police officer, which I know takes a lot of commitment, but it was his life's purpose. Gary was in perpetual dialogue with himself as to how he was going to make a difference in his life. And he spent his entire time, I think, thinking about that, he used to tell me it was worth it if he just made a little bit of a difference. And people, after he retired, would say, "Would you be a police officer today?" And his eyes would well up and he'd say yes, because it's important. And Gary, that was Gary. That was the life that he led. He didn't do things in small ways. He did things in significant ways because he led a life of significance. And that's why we all feel that void now. And as I was preparing for this little talk, not knowing that everybody would say what I was going to say, I thought about this book and I thought about that poem that Tom mentioned, because I was going to mention that. It's actually a version of a song that was performed by his favorite country, or really a cowboy singer, Don Edwards. And it's about a guy who lives his life, and then as he starts to fade away, realizes that his life is coming to an end. And one night he's not there anymore. But you end up hearing his call among the coyotes. There's one more, as the line says, one more coyote was heard. And I realized that we don't have to try to fill that void, because Gary gave us a gift, the gift of significance, which was his life. And when the lights are turned down low, I know we're all going to remember him, and we're all going to hear his call in our own way. And so I'd like to close with some words that my sister Ellen wrote. It says, "We love him, and we will never forget him, and we'll try to honor his memory by being the best versions of ourselves that we can be. You are one of the good ones, Gary, and we trust that you rest in peace."